Here we go. Welcome everybody. Next slide. There we go. Welcome to Happy Appsgiving, everybody. We're very glad you could join us. This is the second multi-city virtual event we've done. First one went really well. We're really glad you all could join us for this one too.
Next slide.
Yes. Just double checking my notes. Yeah, so as I said, so this is the second one where most or all of the active ACEs in Canada have gotten together to host one big event. So we've got Vancouver, Winnipeg, Toronto, of course, Montreal, Quebec City, and the new Kitchener-Waterloo represented. So if you are one of us, one of the leads, please raise your hand so people can see that it's you. Just hit the reaction button. And then it's the option at the bottom. And if you are in an area that is not near enough or represented by one of these major cities, next slide, you can start your own chapter. So you can go to this link to sign up, but also feel free to reach out to any of us with our hands up for help or info about the program and getting started.
So my turn. We have the chance today to be here because of many sponsors. We almost have all the Atlassian partner in Canada. So let's take some time to thank them. I'm gonna go one by one. We have Adaptavis, Event System Group, Blended Perspective that will do a presentation right after, FMX Solution, Highway 3, IT Methods, Rewind, Selectstar, Trundle, and Valiantis. So please, thanks all of them for the nice gift we're gonna get for the quiz. Next, we have the chance today to have presentation from all over Canada. We're gonna start with someone from Toronto that will give us a state of union around apps. So Miles, the show is yours. You can share your screen. Are you still there, Miles? Oh, is he gone with the drag queen?
No, I'm here.
Okay, good.
Yeah, let me just share my screen now. Yeah. Is that good? Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Working
Just
great.
As regards the comment about the drag queen, I can explain. The team, my team has we have a sort of bi-weekly kind of cocktail party get together because we're a fully virtual company, and in fact we've got quite a nice campaign about all the different things that people have been able to do about that. And so what we tried to do is do interesting events. And what the event tonight for the team is a drag queen bingo. So I think that'll be pretty interesting. All right, so my job is to talk to you about kind of the state of the union in terms of the apps. Now, this research that we're presenting to you today is based on MARS, the Service Marketplace Analytics Research Service, and we started this about 4 years ago now. Seems like only yesterday. What we do is we have created a database of in-depth data on the Atlassian Marketplace. The Atlassian Marketplace is a public domain, and so with various technology approaches, we've been able to create a database that has systematically looked at the marketplace over this time. And of course, the API is always available for everyone who wishes to extract data from the marketplace. And so we took Atlassian up on the offer, and we built this database. We've also created our own categories because we didn't like the categories or the way that Atlassian had categorized apps. And the reason for that, one of the main reasons for that, is that it's because vendors self-select which categories they're in, and they tend to select every category. So it doesn't matter what category it is, you'll find, you know, that the vendor is in every one of them. You can't really blame them, but it doesn't really help you, the customer, you know, to understand, you know, what these genuine categories are. And so we have a range of sort of standardized reports that we provide to clients and to the market in general about what's going on with Mars. So this first slide is kind of interesting. We've started to look at the marketplace, you know, not just in terms of what we can tell you about it, and not just in terms of kind of what's hot, but we started to look at it in terms of, you know, what it tells even the vendors and you, the customers, you know, in terms of performance. And for that purpose, we took a bit of a leaf out of the BCG famous matrix. I'm not sure, you probably all at some point at school, you know, came across this. But essentially, if you have, you know, low market share and low growth, you get, your product gets categorized as a bit of a dog. I'm told that's politically not acceptable, especially to dog owners, but it just is the way that I was taught it. So we couldn't get away from it. And if you have high market share, but your market growth rate is low, that's a cash cow. And really the name of the game, you know, is to have high market share and high market growth. And what we did was we created an analysis of instances, you know, versus growth. And you can see that we've mapped a whole bunch of products, you know, on this, which, you know, we think is a sort of an interesting way of sort of looking at the data. This is an early stage kind of preview of how we're looking at the kind of what we call the growth matrix, or the attractiveness matrix. Probably more coming soon. More exciting for us is the fact that we've included now users in our analysis. It's a discrete query into the API, which allows us to see how many users, you know, products have. There are questions outstanding about what it means in terms of the technical definition of it. But what's really fascinating is just the sheer volume and size of some of the apps. And as you can see, you know, there are some really big hitters in terms of the numbers of users. And this users versus instances is a particularly interesting way to look at this, because obviously if you have a smaller number of instances, but you've got a lot of users, you're probably dealing with larger companies. Whereas if you have a larger number of instances, you know, and a lower number of users, you're probably operating, you know, in smaller companies. So again, this is relatively new. We've only just started bringing the user population data into the analysis. I think probably the big story, you know, in the last year or two simply has been the consolidation story. With AppFire buying pretty well everybody, and then, you know, Tempo acquiring ALM Works, you know, we're seeing, you know, a very significant, you know, number of acquisitions, and there's some pretty profound ways to look at this. You can see that based on our categorization process, you can see in the dark black is AppFire's share of the categories, and the categories AppFire is not in. You can also see, you know, where Tempo now starts to play, and you can also see where the other vendors are. I think it's interesting. We've now started to look at this through the two lenses, the instances lens, and the users lens. And pretty clearly, when it comes to users, publishing is really far and away the big one. When it comes to instances, it's planning. But publishing is a very substantial category, and that's Confluence for sure. What really is starting to look interesting is the fact that the top 10 vendors now control 46% of all marketplace instances and 55% of all users. So the top 10 vendors in this marketplace now are starting to, assert their muscle in terms of their share of the marketplace. We've done some category overviews, and this is our kind of fun big bubble chart. And what this tells you is in 2022, the instance growth for each category, and the number of apps in the category is the is the y-axis, and the size of the circle is the number of instances. So what this is really telling you is clearly planning is a dominant area, publishing is a dominant area. In terms of growth, these are the growth areas, and these are not so much the growth areas. We think that scripting potentially, has taken a hit because of the implications for cloud. And I think although time management, isn't showing a great deal of growth, I think at some point we'll start to see pull through, into the planning arena because of its, relatively tight integration. Diagramming is clearly, doing very well, has always done particularly well. And we know that it's a relatively small number of apps that compete in this space. Hence, it's featuring kind of lower on the y-axis. There's a bunch of test reports here, as category reports. And you can see, that pretty clearly, there's 3 players in test management, and where they fit. Here you have instances versus users, which has become our kind of de facto view of success. Zephyr Scale has been growing very, very well. X-Ray has been growing well. Zephyr Squad, not so much in terms of instance growth. But this is a very, very healthy category, and probably reflects the fact that a lot of companies just are moving away from that old HPQC, test management product, which seems to have changed hands about 300 times. Diagramming, it's really pretty well the Draw.io story. We have seen that Glyphy, has certainly got a reasonably large number of users, but doesn't have the same growth as Draw.io. How am I doing for time? Is it?
You have like 2 minutes left, something like that.
2 minutes left. Okay, great. In terms of growth, again, we see a very similar picture. Average rating. So this is more just for your information. We collect a lot of different data points for these apps. We can, give you analytics on average rating. That's user ratings. We even collect version, what we call version velocity. And the way we do that is that the marketplace does publish releases, and those releases have, denomination x.x, x.x, xx. And so what we're doing is we're keying in on the x.x releases. And for that particular information, we're always interested in, is this a product that is releasing on a regular basis? Is there investment in it? And what are we seeing in terms of that that performance? Here's an analysis of reporting, and clearly table filter and charts for Confluence looks like it's doing very well. Easy BI is it's doing well as well. And we have seen custom charts for Jira, showing some pretty significant growth. And reports, charts, and graphs for Jira is really doing extremely well in terms of top 10 fastest movers. Planning, I'll just quickly go into planning. In terms of market share, in terms of users, structure has obviously been very, very successful. But big picture, is now the leader in terms of instances. And this sort of gives you a bit of a sense of, these two are the sort of dominant, the dominant players. I could keep going, but here is obviously the instance growth. Big picture is really doing very, very well, and obviously taking advantage of being part of the AppFire family. All of this information is available to you. The way that we do this is for our clients. We make it available on a strategic basis to enable them, to make a strategic decision about which are the right apps for them. And the other way I would ask you to think about this data is you don't have to buy an app, but I think you need to understand what's moving, what's fast moving, what are the use cases in those fast moving apps that people are adopting, that enable them to take a, to do things better. And we see a lot of that in the marketplace. And so, Mars is basically, a part of Mars is very much to try to identify those fast movers, figure out what the use cases are, and turn that information around to our customers. And that is my story.
Thanks, Miles. I really think that it's a nice tool to have to understand the marketplace better. Okay, now it's the turn of let's take the bus and move to Ottawa. It's time from James from Rewind to tell us a bit more about cloud backup. James, do you want to share your screen? Good.
Hopefully everybody can see that.
Yes, we can. So the show is yours.
Perfect. Outstanding. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming today. Thanks for having me. My name is James. I am the CTO and co-founder of a company called Rewind. Founded in Ottawa, Ontario, and powered by a rather dispersed workforce worldwide, we develop backup and recovery solutions for SaaS data. Our products secure over 2 petabytes of information worldwide, and we like to think we've earned our reputation as the data people. I'd like to start today with a simple question. You probably back up your on-prem data, but why not back up your cloud data as well? There's an old saying that there's 2 types of people in this world, those who have backups and those who need them. Critical data stored in SaaS applications is often overlooked when it comes to data security. In 2019, a study from Statista revealed that over 91% of organizations back up their critical data, but only 16% back up their SaaS data. Rewind is here to help address that problem. There's a pernicious myth that in the cloud and backed up are synonymous with each other. But anyone who's lost Flickr photos, Google contacts, their inbox, or an e-commerce product catalog, they'll tell you otherwise. Providers of SaaS platforms are not responsible for the individual account data. And if you take a closer look at their terms and conditions, which we all read, right? They're actually pretty explicit about this. Our first example is the little platform called GitHub. You might have heard of it. In GitHub's terms of service, they explicitly state that they take no liability for the content you create, generate, or store on their platform. And not to pick on Microsoft, but another popular service that makes it clear they are not liable for your data is MS365. Popular apps like Office, OneDrive, SharePoint, Teams, and more also assume no liability for the data you store or generate. And Atlassian has similar wording in their terms of service as well. Now, what do these services mean when they say your content and your data? Well, it's the bits and bytes that go through these services. Using Jira as an example, all of your issues, comments, workflows, and attachments are content data, also known as account data. And everyone makes it clear that you are responsible for it. Now, it's important to note that GitHub, Microsoft 365, Atlassian, and all other popular business applications, they're very secure platforms. They all have the right disaster recovery policies and processes in place to ensure that they're offering a reliable and robust service to all of their customers. But if disaster exclusively strikes you, it's on you to have a recovery solution. Finding the data related to you and your account from their system level backups would be like searching for a needle in a field of haystacks. While the specifics change depending on whether we're talking about infrastructure as a service, platforms as a service, software as a service, the onus is always on you, the user, the customer, to back up your account level data. And that's why a large majority of SaaS providers follow the shared responsibility model, which is what you see on this slide here. Simply stated, the shared responsibility says that the service is responsible for security and reliability up to a point, but that you, as the customer, are responsible for security and reliability for everything beyond that. So if a meteorite struck at Atlassian data center tomorrow, their DR plan is designed to recover the entire platform. But if the problem is more localized and affects only you and your account data, it would be quite difficult for them to help you. The harsh reality is that in order to restore and recover individual account data, you need an individual account level backup. Now, data loss comes from a variety of sources, but there's usually the same root cause in all problems. When your organization could be a victim of a phishing attack, there could be a buggy third-party application, there could be a malicious deletion, or even something accidental and unintended. But there's always a human involved. And let's face it, everybody makes mistakes. Trusting the wrong app, accidentally revealing sensitive information due to some phishing attack, or simply a cat jumping on a keyboard and hitting the wrong combination of keys to delete something. We've literally seen it all happen to our Rewind customers. And unfortunately, until Tesla's Optimus robot becomes fully self-aware, you'll never be able to completely eliminate this risk. But you can mitigate it with a secure and reliable backup and recovery solution. IBM's annual report on the cost of data revealed some shocking numbers for 2022. Of note, the report found that 60% of studied organizations raised their product or service prices to offset the cost of a data problem. Data loss is an expensive ordeal. It costs you time and it costs you money to fix it. There could also be hefty regulatory fines depending on where you are and the type of data that was involved. And incalculable costs include damage to your reputation. Would you trust an organization that didn't have a proper continuity plan? Hopefully by now I've convinced you that backups are an essential component to keeping your business on track. And now it's time for the eternal debate in software purchasing, to build or to buy. As with most questions, it depends on your organization, its data needs, its compliance, security constraints, and the technical capabilities of your team. It's worth taking a moment to discuss some of the pros and cons of a do-it-yourself solution versus the pros and cons of a backup as a service product. A basic do-it-yourself backup solution can be set up with a combination of scripts, a few cron jobs, and some other free tools that you might find online. But if your team doesn't need to regularly run backups, nor really care about the reliability of that data, this can be a cost-effective solution. But there is a not so subtle difference between a backup and backup recovery solution. A backup is just a copy of your files. I've got a backup of this presentation on my desktop, but a backup and recovery solution is more involved. It should recreate the data in your SaaS account exactly as it was before to ensure that business continuity. To better illustrate the difference, I'd like to use an example of a spare key in a car. Simply having the key is the backup, but if you store that key in the glove box, it's not going to be very useful if you lock yourself out of the car. In this analogy, the backup and recovery solution is the spare key that can be easily and reliably accessible and can get you back in your car when you need to. There's also a question of acceptable levels of risk. A do-it-yourself solution is inherently more risky. You're relying on the expertise of your in-house team, as well as trusting them with elevated access to all of that sensitive data. You're also assuming the responsibility of ensuring backups can be restored. Utilizing a backup as a service product, or BaaS, as we like to call it, shoulders that risk from you with assurance from verified compliance programs. And also, if something goes wrong, a qualified backup as a service provider has a number to call and an expert on the other end that can help you with data recovery exactly when you need it. It took Rewind's team of engineers about 1 year to fully launch our first backup and restore product. Data backups may sound simple, just download the data, store it securely, and you're done, right? But once you start to unpeel that onion, there's a lot of complexities involved. APIs change. Oftentimes, documentation can be lacking. There's often hidden business logic behind the interaction with these APIs. Just putting the back correctly and in a timely manner can be a huge challenge. The majority of companies today use multiple SaaS platforms, and each has its own intricacies involved in backing up and restoring that data. If you had endless engineers to work on endless problems, this maybe isn't an issue for you, but we all know that developer time is precious and expensive and better spent building value for your customers. Incidentally, if you have unlimited engineers at your beck and call, I'd love to know more about your recruitment strategies. SaaS and cloud data are not immune from compliance audits, disaster recoveries, or business continuity plans. Choosing a backup as a service provider with all the security compliance you need for your own requirements saves you time and money. This frees up your team to do what they do best, which is delivering solutions and products that your customers want. Outsourcing your backup and recovery need often makes good business sense. By choosing the right partner, you can be confident that your data is secure and compliant without adding unnecessary build tasks to your development team. Rewind provides secure backup and recovery apps for a variety of SaaS platforms, further streamlining data and security. And we protect companies' businesses' critical data, allowing them to focus on what they do best. I appreciate my time here. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is on this slide. And for more information about Rewind, head over to rewind.com.
Thanks, James. I think it's a nice time to have such tools since everyone is moving on the SaaS solution. That's the big trend right now. So at least they have a solution for backup. Thanks. So time to take the train and go to Winnipeg. David, you have
Hello.
something to show us around Slack and Jira?
I do, although in the way of the point that was recently made about how, engineering time is precious, my working demo turned into a not working demo. So we're going to be giving you a tour of what's possible. Unfortunately, not what is, but such it is. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Let's see, I can share a screen. I'm going to start here. That's just as I juggle. So what I'm going to talk about today is a product that used to be from the company Mindville called Insight that was brought into the Jira Service Management platform last year. Insight is effectively a not a content management, but a configuration management database plugin for Jira that stores, you could think of it as a way to store or model a relational database schema using the Jira database. So it stores, for example, tables or databases as projects and tables as issue types and attributes as custom attributes. So that kind of thing. Now, this Insight management platform can give you a way to create a schema and a bunch of instances. So the UI for Jira Insight looks a lot like a relational database editor, you might think. Here's an example of a Jira Service Management. Am I even sharing a screen? Yes.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Yeah. It's working.
I had a moment of panic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, we see.
Okay, good. So here we have a sample, a DevCon demo Atlassian project that was stood up for me for the purpose of this demo, and it's a Jira Service Management project. You can see there's an Insight tab here. So if I click to Insight, you can define a list of object schemas. Now I believe that Insight comes with a temporary, not a temporary, but an example template of an object schema that models some typical IT resources. So for example, laptops or hardware assets or things like that. One of the other things that I've seen this used for is to create a list of services that might be considered to be applications. So here in this example, I've defined a schema called services. There's one object type called service. And if I edit one of these objects, you can see that each of these objects has a list of properties, key value properties, basically. The Insight Schema Editor allows you to configure what each of these object names are called and what each of these properties are for any given object. So I can drill into my services, and I've populated this list of services with 3 example applications in my web store domain. It's a fictional domain, but you can imagine it's selling whatever you're most interested in. So here we have 3 records, one for a front end, like a web client, one for an inventory API that provides current or exposes current inventory queries for use in the mobile and front end. And here we have a mobile app. So what's the use in this, you might ask? Well, this provides a way for an engineering team or an infrastructure team to keep a list of registered assets, which is useful for audit and compliance purposes, and also to unambiguously refer to a specific application by a specific registered name. So how does somebody navigate this list? Well, one of the people, like not all of your stakeholders are going to live in Jira as much as we might like them to. So one of the integrations that we built was a Slack app. Here we have Derry, who is a Slack bot that we built, named after one of the lovable characters from Letterkenny. So this is not going to work, but you can imagine that I might ask Derry, give me all the apps that are related to the store. Now Derry here is not wired up and doesn't know anything about these apps, but you could imagine in the background that this Slack app could make an API call to this Jira Insight API, do a fuzzy search against these assets here, and prepare for you a list, something like this, that says these are the applications that I found with the word store. This is a demonstration of Slack's block kit builder that allows you to create some pretty complex renderings of whatever information you want. So you could imagine somebody could ask Derry, tell me about any apps that have the word store in them. And you might get a result in Slack like this. And this could include links to documentation in Confluence or links into the actual applications in Insight. So this is a way that you could imagine storing a registered list of applications, a specific discrete list of supported applications, along with whatever attributes you need that are relevant for your use case. And you could imagine a Slack app that lets customers or clients or other team members interact with this data without needing to log into Insight themselves, and thereby open up descriptions of these applications and the list of these applications to anybody to interact with in your organization. This is what I have for you today, and unfortunately, as I said, it's not wired up and working. Engineering time is precious and does sometimes get squeezed. That said, I'm happy to take any questions about this pattern. Not seeing any questions.
There's someone with their hand up.
Dennis, you've had your hand up for a while, yes?
Yes. Let's see if we have any question, people. If you have any question, feel free to send them over.
Max is asking, is this a Dungeons and Dragons tab?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this is just my tab group for this that's called DevCon demo today. Nothing so exciting as Dungeons and Dragons in my demo. But my next demo, I will have a category of characters for you. Dennis, I see your hand up, but I think it's been
Yeah, it's because I never removed it. Let me
okay.
remove it.
Good. So I have not built integrations beyond Slack, but you could imagine if somebody was interested, they could build an application as a plugin that could go into Discord, or I'm not familiar with Teams and the extensibility model there, but you could imagine any app that or any platform that provides plugins support or some way to deploy applications, you could write one. Okay.
Perfect. Thanks.
Thank you.
Let's move on. Thanks for your time. So now it's time to go back to Ontario. We have Jimmy from Guelph that will talk us about Codgeist and how to build your own app, right, Jimmy?
Yeah, thank you,
Better.
Denny. I will just take control here and let's go here. Is everyone able to see that?
Yep.
Perfect.
Are you gonna show us how easy it is to build our own app?
We will see. How about that?
Okay. Good.
Happy Appsgiving, everyone. My name is Jimmy. I am not a marketplace vendor, but I am just a customer who loves everything Atlassian. And what I want to talk to you all today about is Codegeist, Forge, and an app I submitted last year to Codegeist, which is a competition, a hackathon competition, community app help. So what I want to go over is just a little bit about what it is, how you can get involved. And I've put next year because it's currently running right now and the deadline is October 31st. So I doubt anyone's going to be able to get something up and running and be able to submit it in time for the deadline for this year, but it's been running every single year. So this might be something you want to consider for next year. I'll cover a little bit about what Atlassian Forge is, since it's kind of the bread and butter for that hackathon competition. And then I'll just give a quick demo of what I submitted last year. So if you aren't familiar with Codegeist, it is a hackathon that is sponsored by Atlassian, but it is hosted on a platform called DevPost. If you aren't familiar with DevPost, they are basically a platform that hosts hackathons for tons of companies. So if you are inclined to want to just get involved in writing small little projects where there's possibly cash prizes involved, I would recommend going to DevPost, signing up for an account, and then they will notify you when there's a hackathon going on based on what you set as sort of your competencies in your profile that might match something you'd be interested in. For Atlassian, they have been using this exclusively for Atlassian Forge, which I believe started in beta in 2020, has since gone GA, and that's sort of the where they're focusing this hackathon effort on. It is open to everyone to participate. You don't have to be a marketplace vendor. I just know that in the past, from what I have seen when I have signed up, there are definitely a lot of marketplace vendors who join it. But there's also a lot of just independent people, such as myself last year, who just wanted to try out, explore Forge, make something cool. And as I mentioned, there are prizes to be won. So I'm just giving a couple of screenshots that I pulled from my own project just to give you an idea of what it looks like. So DevPost as the platform, there is a option to join the hackathon. As much as they say there are $300,000 in prizes to win, that is true if you look at all the different categories. There is definitely judging criteria on there that you'll want to check out as far as if you have an idea that you think would be good, make sure that it maps to what Atlassian's looking for as a part of the hackathon. And then what I gave is sort of just a brief picture of what my project page looked like, as well as what the editing process as far as submitting looked like. How you can get involved. So codegeist.devpost.com is the official link for Atlassian's specific hackathon, and it will always be that link every single year. They'll just update it to the new version. As I mentioned, it's usually late summer, early autumn that they started up. Last year, I think it started around the end of July. This year, I don't think it started until beginning of September, but the current one ends August 31st, as I've mentioned earlier. So if you want to at least go and check it out, I'd recommend just at least going to the link and seeing what projects are there. You can see what people are working on. It might inspire you to try something yourself. Keeping an eye on updates from DevPost and in the online community. Both of those are always locations where you can see when they will announce the next one. So if you're already interested based on what I've mentioned and you want to check it out in 2023, I would keep an eye on both of those locations so that you can get in there as soon as it gets started. The one recommendation I would make is if you aren't familiar with Node.js, that might be something you'll want to do since Atlassian Forge kind of requires that as a backbone. So I would say if you're wanting to prepare for doing it next year and you're not familiar with it, that might be something to do in the off season in order to get prepared for it. And then also come up with an idea that you think would make a good app. As far as Atlassian Forge is concerned, so it is a development platform. And just to give you an idea that there are two platforms out there, I'm going to do a very high level overview of what they are. Connect is one where you are going to host the apps somewhere in the cloud that connect to the Atlassian instances. And then you're responsible for, obviously the compute costs in the cloud environment for the app that you have built. Forge is hosted within Atlassian's ecosystem, so they cover the costs of it, but they're also responsible for the processing power that it gets. So I would say for anyone who wants to just try things out on their own, Forge is a great starting point. And you can start on that by just going to the hyperlink that I have there. So the developer.atlassian.com/platformforge. They have a great getting started there. Which will give you everything that you need prerequisite-wise to install on your machine. They have instructions for both Windows and for Mac or Unix, so that you can get all the prerequisites installed, and then they'll show you sort of some examples, which can help if you're not as familiar with Node.js on how to get started building a Forge app. The other thing I'd recommend is checking out their reference tab, and specifically the UI kit, as that will show you information on what components are available in Jira and Confluence that you can use to make your app. And as of right now, I believe Jira and Confluence are the only products that are supported with Forge. And I know that they're working on trying to support more of them in the future. So again, I just pulled a few screenshots of what Forge looks like as far as getting started with Atlassian. The main page, they're getting started, showing you sort of what you need in order to get started, and how to start creating their Hello World app. And then just a bit of a screen grab on their common UI components, which was kind of my go-to for building my own app. Now I'll just give a quick demo on what I did last year. And I'll point out that this app itself, I did in my off time, and I tried to tie it back to the Atlassian community. So I'm in my Jira Cloud instance, and what I ended up doing was just making an issue menu action called Get Community Help. And that's going to load up a modal here, which is going to give you the option to go to the Atlassian online community immediately. I did some hard-coded pre-populated tags that will be helpful in your search. And then I gave you things, a search box to sort of search for what you're looking to find, because the purpose of this app was, instead of making you go to the community, let's bring the ability to search for what you need help with directly into the product. So when you search for that, I'm using the Atlassian community has a public API for searching, which allowed me to pull in the title of the search phrase that you sent in, as well as a small snippet that matched what you were looking for. And this will give you an idea of what you have searched for and things that might help you with that. So you can actually click the hyperlink title, and that will take you directly into the community for that post. And you can see if this matches exactly what you were looking for, see if there were any answers on it, and that might possibly be able to solve your question. And that's sort of what I wrote. I did one for Jira and Confluence, which basically shared the same sort of code base. And that's what I ended up submitting. And that's really all I have for you for today. So, I mean, as an ending, does anyone have any questions about any of that? I know I threw a whole lot of information at you in a very short period of time. Where do you find off time? I sacrifice sleep. That's where I find off time. So I don't sleep and I do other things.
I don't recommend it to others.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone.
So thanks to all the speakers today. So now I think it's the time for the quiz and to have fun. Right? Next slide, Susan. Oh, no, actually, ask me anything before the quiz.
Yes, so once again, we're using Slido for the Ask Me Anything and then for the quiz. So please get yourself set up, use the QR code or the URL with the number ID. For the quiz, there will be prizes. So if you would like to win, please make sure you set your username as something at least very close to your real name so that people can't, you know, like if you put in pumpkin, anyone can say, oh, I was pumpkin and claim your prize. And then of course, again, if you're a leader or work for Atlassian or a partner, please put DQ in front of your name. That way you can participate, but we know not to announce you as a winner. For the AMA side, yeah, submit your questions. You can also upvote other people's questions. So, you know, if there's 7 questions and one has 4 votes and one has 2, we'll make sure to ask the one with the 4 votes first. All right, and so I'll hand it over to Brendan, who is hosting the AMA.
All right, thank you.
So you ready for me to?
Yeah, we'll just get our panel set up here.
Can you see people joining the Slido over on your side?
I can see people are voting up on questions and posting questions, so yes, should be all good there. Feel free to add some additional questions there if anything comes to mind.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a fill in. We had a little cancellation. I'm working on it. So, so we might have a late joiner from Atlassian. Just going to warn everybody, but I can start the screen share. Has everybody had a chance, do you think, to get their name in before we pull down the Slido numbers?
Yeah, I think it'll show once more in the deck after the AMA, and we'll be able to, if you haven't joined at that point, you'll have one final opportunity before the quiz.
Right. Okay. Let me get the AMA then set up. Okay. All right. Does it take a second, everybody? Jimmy, how do you feel about sitting in for a bit?
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you. Just got to get rid of everybody else. Sorry, it takes a moment. A lot of participants. Worth it. Worth it, everybody. Enjoy the feast. Let's see. Lost Brendan. Okay. Okay, it's going to take a second to get this set up. Does everybody see the nice dinner table? Put you there. Jimmy, I'm going to put you there. I am going to hide behind Brendan. And you can sit at the head of the table, Brendan.
All righty.
All righty.
Okay, well, why don't we can kick off with sort of a question for for everybody at the panel. That seems to be the most popular so far, which is what is your favorite Atlassian ecosystem app and why? No choosing your own products, mind you. So.
I'll go on, given as I put that question in to seed the questions, I'll kick off and start with that one, shall I?
Go right ahead.
I'd actually go with Risk Register from Project Balm as the one that I would say is something which does exactly what it says on the tin, does it incredibly well, and so many organizations just don't know about it. It's just a real shame.
Oh, can't hear you there.
Yeah, Phil, you're a little muted. If you could speak up a bit or repeat that, because we'd really like to hear that.
No worries. I'll bring the mic closer. Yeah, I was saying Risk Register from Project Balm. It does what it says on the tin. It does it really well. It's really easy to use, but is configurable. Brilliant little app. Comes from a pair of guys based out in Sydney. Deserves every bit of recognition that it can get.
Can I comment on that?
Sure.
It is popular. There are a few things about it though that I would just say, just a point of view. Risk is an issue type for us, which you can configure any workflow you want for it. There are two components to Risk Register. Is really this idea that it's able to deposit the risks into the nice graphic, and a lot of clients love the graphic, the matrix. You can actually get that same functionality in Big Picture, which also has that module built into it. And I suppose the thing that it just depends how you want to look at the platform. We would recommend to a lot of customers or clients that they have risk as a configurable item. And not be dependent on a third-party app for risk configuration. That's just a kind of a way to look at that topic. But there's no question that risk management is a great app in Jira, and Risk Register is quite a popular app.
Any other apps that you wanted to call out as a sort of a favorite?
I couldn't because there are so many different categories and there are so many apps. I think one thing I think that's interesting is that we've started to see what we call fast and nimble versus kind of big apps. So if you think of Tempo as a big app or Big Picture as a big app, I'd say these are big functional apps, but there are a lot of small, fast-moving apps in the timesheet category, and a lot of nimble, very focused functional apps that are always worth watching for. Yeah.
Any example you want to give out? I know you're hesitant to pick a favorite or anything, but something that would be worth checking out for people.
I'll think about it and I'll get back to you.
No worries.
So I'm just going to give a minor self-serving plug and say I covered this in the Welcome Wednesday in the Atlassian community. So every Wednesday we have one of those posts. What I put in there this morning was the fact that my company makes regular use of Issue Checklist Pro for Jira by Hero Coders. The thing that I like about it is not just that it's worked well for a number of teams, but anytime I've had an issue, their support team is really responsive, and that's just as important to me as the app itself.
Yeah, Hero Coders was actually on the top of my tongue because I remember we've seen a lot of action around Hero Coders. Those guys build very streamlined, specific apps, and they're very fast moving. Of course, a lot of them are free, but but that's the model, right? You know, a lot of these kind of nimble development teams will build these apps, set them up as free to start with, and then start charging a year or two in. But yeah, check out Hero Coders. They've also got a timesheet app, which has been very, very successful. A much simpler app than, say, Tempo.
Okay. Next question seems to be one of the more popular ones, and I know we had hoped to have somebody directly from Atlassian on the call there. But any concerns regarding Canadian data sovereignty with regard to cloud apps? Not sure if there's.
I can comment a little bit on that.
Sure.
We're cloud specialized, so we're doing a lot of cloud migrations right now in Canada, and we're definitely starting to see some very large organizations in Canada move to cloud. You know, and I'm talking some financial institutions. So it's our view that we're moving past that issue.
Yeah, I'll pick it up and just extend that a little bit. I put in the chat the ticket that you all need to watch and lobby Atlassian on. They did have a due date of Q4 this year. I'm not going to be holding my breath waiting for that to happen. I've seen how much they've missed in other parts of the world in that respect when they've said that data residency is coming. I would also say one of the great big things is you also have to remember that that is data residency for the Atlassian app. All of the partners, all of the apps that run in there have to also set up their data residency also to Canada as well, which is not going to be overnight. It's not going to be they flick a switch and it all happens immediately. You will find that many app vendors only actually provide data residency in a limited set of the locations that Atlassian provide data residency. There are very few app vendors that provide the full set.
I think our view is that large corporates are moving more towards the idea that they don't care anymore, that their data is stored elsewhere. They'll be moving more to that than the other way around.
I would challenge that one as well. There are some who are absolutely don't give a hoot where their data is, and there are others who are absolutely adamant that they need the data residency. It really is a case-by-case basis, I find.
Well, okay. I mean, let's just agree to disagree. I mean, I would agree with you that there are companies that and government entities that refuse to have their data over south of the border. But I will say that in my opinion we have the largest customer base in Canada, and that our view of the matter is that there are many corporates that we wouldn't have expected to go to cloud are going to cloud. So that's just what we're seeing. So yeah,
I don't think we're actually disagreeing, to be honest. I think what we're just saying is there are some who are making that move, and there are some who are most definitely not making that move. No, and you have to bear in mind where does your organization sit on that continuum. But don't forget the fact that it is as much about where are the apps hosted as it is about where the actual application is hosted.
Yes, I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Guys, just stepping in, I just want to introduce Sean Young from Atlassian. We were just talking about, oh, where'd you go? Shoot. There you are. Sorry, we had a last minute fill in, and I don't know if that question is at all helpful to be posed to him, Brenda. I'll let you know that. I was just messing around with the immersive.
Yeah, no worries. We were just discussing where things were with data residency for apps when it comes to cloud. I know Canada's on the roadmap there, and we're just having a conversation over whether people wanted this or needed this or think they needed this, and was just if you have any comments there at the end of that conversation.
I don't really have a whole ton of information about data residency. We actually, I mean, we have a couple of internal teams just recently reach out to Marketplace to start talking about it. So it's very, very, how would I say, infant stage, I would say, in terms of data residency. I would love to give you more information, but unfortunately I don't at the moment.
All right. No worries. All right. Next question we have here. Which app is only available on server that you would really wish to see get added to cloud?
Yep.
So
have to do a query on that.
yeah.
Who's asking, and wouldn't they tell us what they're thinking?
Me,
I believe it was
Susan.
Susan. Yeah.
You must have an ulterior motive here, Susan.
Well, I mean, I'm still on server, not over to cloud, and I'm just bemoaning the apps that are not going to make it over there. Two of my faves that are not going to make it. One is Data Plane, and the other one is Service. I think it's called something else now, but it's the Salesforce connector go-to group that did that one. And I don't know if anyone with app experience in the cloud has used those server ones and knows good ones in the cloud to replace them, or am I just SOL?
Well, I mean, Data Plane is good, but I mean, there's so many reporting apps. Is there something about Data Plane that is so special to you that it must be the same thing on cloud?
No, I would like to look at that one that you highlighted in your presentation, I think, to see if that would replace it.
Yeah, there's just a ton of reporting apps on cloud. Another way to think about this isn't so much what won't get to cloud as a whole, but what doesn't work well on cloud. I think a more serious issue for customers is, they have a product on data center or server that's doing something for them, and they want to go to cloud, but the version of that product on cloud doesn't work, or doesn't work the way they need it to work. And I have to say, and I know that somebody will probably shoot me from the audience, but I mean, Script Runner would fall firmly into the middle of that, would it not? I mean,
I wouldn't shoot you for that at all. I would be the very first person to stand up and say Script Runner for cloud is intrinsically a different entity to Script Runner for on-premise, right, purely because of the way in which it is able to interact with the system, and it has to go entirely through the API. There are things that APIs are not provided for, so therefore it cannot do the same things that the on-premise solution can do. Yes, we work closely with Atlassian, as every marketplace partner does, but we are restricted in terms of what we can connect to. Right. Behaviors is the one that everybody is shouting and screaming about. And I will be brutally honest, we would love to release behaviors. We are releasing behaviors for the create screen. It's in beta at the moment, but that's only for the create screen. It's not for all of the different screens at this point in time. That is in beta. It's going well. Am I going to give you a date on which it's released? Absolutely not, because we've got to get through beta and confirm, and then we're going to roll out changes. I think that's true of pretty much every marketplace partner. There are certain things that you can do on premise that are just not physically possible at this point in cloud.
Yeah. So you have to make a decision if you're doing the migration, what to do about that. Do you wait, or do you look at alternative, configurations and workarounds? So that's a big consideration, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I help lots of organizations go through the discussion of a migration. What apps are necessary what apps would they desire and what apps can they lose. And it's based upon what feature set is available in cloud, how they make those decisions. It's not based upon what they've historically had. It's about what is available to them going forward. And I'm finding many organizations are actually going, yeah, we used to use that, but we don't actually need it going forward at this point in time. And if we do need it again, we'll look for a new solution because the world has moved on since 1999 when we last looked at that, or whenever the date was. I'm going to throw the one that I really like into the mix. And this is a personal thing. It's purely personal. It's not a, this is one that lots of people use. It's just one that I personally use time and time again, is the integrity checker, the Jira. Lovely little app. Again, it's another one that does what it says on the tin. It's not a biggie, but just technically not able to do it in cloud, which is a real shame because it helps me solve lots of configuration issues quickly and easily.
Okay, thank you for that. With regard to, and this one might specifically be for Miles, with regard to the app data in the planning space, one thing that's I noticed was absent there. Do you have any idea about usage regarding advanced roadmaps? Formerly, that was a separate app called Portfolio for Jira, but Atlassian sort of took that, packaged it, bundled it with Data Center for free, and I think it's on the premium offering for Jira Cloud. But it was in that planning space, and it sort of disappeared from the app marketplace.
Yeah, we probably have some historic data for it. I can give you my own personal opinion. It's been a while since I've actually looked at roadmaps. When they first introduced Portfolio, one of the issues with it was what we call it the single hierarchical planning structure, and it really was a problem. And they may have fixed this, and I'll be interested to know what the audience has to say about it, because we don't really get involved much with that product.
Yeah.
But the issue at the time with Portfolio was that you could build one hierarchical structure. So you could have, parent, substructure. You could then have epic. You could have, story, subtask, whatever. And the problem was that if you ever wanted to change that, like if you changed any part of that, all the children would be lost forever. And so there was just a bit of a challenge with. So for organizations that had a singular planning structure where everybody operated the same way, that's fine. But for enterprises that require, say, a division over here wants to have a particular hierarchical structure, which is X, and then another division over there wants to have another hierarchical structure, which is Y, that was a bit of an issue. Well, kind of a total issue, because you couldn't do it. We then, as a result of those concerns, we then sort of turned to more of the Gantt style providers like Big Picture and Structure, because they would embed in their planning approach any form of hierarchical structure you wanted by plan. And of course, you can limit that, but it's just that ability at an enterprise level to have, some people do waterfall, some people do, safe, some people do quasi safe. That we think is really the best practice. And when you look at the big pictures, and the Structure ALM products, they provide for what we call kind of enterprise flexibility at a planning scale. Is anybody using the roadmaps? Does it provide that additional hierarchical flexibility now?
I mean, we don't use it to an extent where it has rows and rows and rows of hierarchy, but we are able, different departments can have slightly different structures or whatnot to a certain degree. I mean, we only had like an extra tier on top of the story epic hierarchy, so it's not like we use it to a very elaborate extent, but it is able to, like, ops can have their own ticket types and their own projects that are
good. Yeah,
separate from things. So I do vaguely recall that it was a little more rigid in the earlier days, but it seems to have more flexibility now.
Well, that's good. I mean, another benefit, and that's mostly cloud though now, isn't it? Where the investment is being made in that product.
Oh yes, no, there's I don't. They basically shut it down for server, and it's been rolled into data center. So you get that for free, if you're on data center, whether you want it or not. So, but it's completely removed from the app marketplace. You won't find it there anymore.
Yeah, the planning area is very competitive. The big acquisitions have taken place obviously in the planning space, and there's a lot of choices. So you just have to decide kind of what you're looking for from the planning app.
All right. Well, thank you. How much time do we have left?
Probably a good, 10 minutes.
Okay. All right. We still got. Yeah, no, we still got a few more questions to go. I was just sort of checking where we were at. So.
And if anyone hasn't gotten into Slido to do their question, if you put the question in the chat, we'll paste it into the Slido deck for you.
All right. Okay, so we'll move on to the next question here. Some cloud apps are quite limited compared to their self-hosted versions. I think somebody's talking about Script Runner here. Are there any notable changes coming to increase app capability? And I don't know if this is more on sort of like the Atlassian API side or whatnot. I'm sure vendors are trying to make the most of it, but any thoughts?
Well, if you want me to answer on Script Runner, I'll jump in with that one first. Behaviors, as I said, is coming. There is a page on our docs side that gives you a continuous update of where we're at in terms of feature parity. We talk about feature parity rather than talking about it being exactly the same, because it just can't be in that respect. Yeah. Would we love to have everything the same? Absolutely. When we have the access to the underpinning technology, we'll be there. Yeah. So behaviors is the next one. We've got a few more things that are coming and in the pipeline after that. But I think the reality is you've got to look at the tools that you've used, and the tools that you've used for a while are really interesting, and actually work your way through and look at the roadmaps of the individual app vendors, see what they're publicly saying they're delivering, and lobby for the things that are important to you. So there's a very open answer for you in that space.
All right. Any other comments?
I just saw Mike just made a comment about intranet options in the chat. And I did want to make a comment about Refined because we are starting to wrap Refined into our solutions for customers. And where we think that they're particularly attractive is this idea of what we call the user-centric interface. I mean, let's face it, Jira is a pretty complicated interface to use. Would you put a Jira, like a standard Jira interface in front of a senior executive? I think not. So we do absolutely believe that a very simple interface wrapped around Jira and Confluence can be very, very powerful. A number of our customers have really bought into this. And so essentially what you're saying is, look, here's your refined kind of dashboard. And you just, it'll say on the dashboard, what do you want to do? Well, I want to see all incidents and their status. Or I want to see, you know, all stories that missed that last sprint. You can build these dashboards, you know, so quickly, and you can get executives very engaged because they're just literally clicking on it, going to the report, right? So you can have a multitude of third-party apps doing all sorts of different things, and literally, you know, the executive users especially are able to just simply see what they want to see. And that's really powerful. They never get in, you know, just don't expose them to the underlying interface where they have to click here and click there and click there and click somewhere else. You know, we totally believe that wrapping an interface like a refined, you know, around your products, your foundation products is a big win for user uptake.
I'd back all of that and add one other little bit, which is the custom URL challenge is solved with Refined as well. So again, those people for whom the something.atlassian.net is a problem, and for some organizations they can ignore it. For other organizations it's a showstopper. The use of Refined enables you to get around that challenge quite easily.
Yeah, that's a good point.
All right.
So what I would say to the embedded Google files, I've just literally had a call this week with Refined. They are keen to hear what people want or need. So if you're having a problem with that, tell them. Make sure that you're being vocal to them, so that they know that is a particular problem. And if enough people say it's a problem to them that Google files don't work in the Refined view, that's one of the things where they, again, go back to that limited development time. That's a place where they can actually pick up and spend some of those crucial development dollars.
All right. Did anyone know how app licensing works in Cloud Enterprise, where you have multiple instances? Can you license per instance?
Yes.
All right. Sounds like a simple one. Is there anywhere that they should be looking for more information on that, or?
It's exactly as it says at the moment.
Yeah.
Which is your apps are licensed based on the number of users that you associate with that instance within your enterprise.
All right. Also, is there an option to get a report for time tracking on Jira Service Desk without adding any apps from the marketplace?
Comes with some reports. It's a kind of a bit of a catch-all question. I mean, what is it? Is there something specific that this person wants to capture?
Yeah. And it's some of the information that's exposed in Data Lake as well.
Yeah.
Right. Data Lake still for enterprise only at this point, or has it been opened up?
I'll check on that one.
Yeah, Jimmy says it's in enterprise only. I thought that's where they were still at. So
I know that they've also done some work around doing some betas with people on premium.
I mean, the thing to remember about Jira Service JSM is that it's nothing much more than a Jira project, right?
No.
So I mean, all of the normal reporting functions that are available to any Jira project, you know, are available for JSM. There may be some specific, you know, SLA stuff that's a bit tricky but it's still a Jira project in essence. The issues are accessible from the search, the search capability, right?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Are there any updates on how ALM and Tempo will provide their apps? I'm not sure if there's just any sort of insight since the acquisition that any of the panel can provide.
I haven't I haven't spoken to them recently, but I can tell you what I would do if I were them, or what you might expect. One of the big things about planning is being able to assign resources to the plan, right? The group, the team. And even in big picture, team assignment does allow you to integrate with Tempo. Tempo has its definition of what a team is, and so does, say, big picture. So most likely what will happen is that they will kind of have a much nicer automated kind of integration of the team, the time that the team is spending on work linked to the overall plan. So that's what you should be looking for if you're sort of on the Tempo side of the equation or the structure side of the equation. And really, one of the things that we'd like to see more of our corporate customers do is actually have time management properly done inside Jira where the work is done, as opposed to a separate system, and no one knows how to consolidate all that information. So probably, I mean, it's a fantastic sort of acquisition for Tempo, because Tempo's planner and some of its other planning apps really just had never taken off. They really were able to grab a premier planning property, when they grabbed that asset.
Okay, that is the last question that I have in Slido for the panel. Is there any sort of last statements or any other things that you want to share before we move on to the quiz and the wrap up?
What are the answers to the questions?
That we'll have to figure out, but okay, it looks like we've reached the end there, but thank you to all the panelists there. A lot of really useful and insightful information and conversation there. All right, so yes, so last opportunity to hop on the Slido there. We've got, for the quiz, we've got 12 questions, a variety of subjects, mostly all within Canada. If we have people joining us from elsewhere, you'll need to do your best there, but multiple choice answer. You'll have 30 seconds to enter in an answer. The faster that you enter in the answer, that's critical, because speed will be the tiebreaker. Most correct responses wins, and the top 10 will all win a prize. So hang on at the end, and we'll give you we'll have a detailed breakdown of who's there. Remember, if you're not eligible, please put a little DQ at the start of your account there. So I can just switch over to the quiz. All right, we've got 31 people in there already. Give you just another minute to join if you haven't done so already. I highly recommend just take your phone, scan the QR code, because it's simple enough that you can just run it off a mobile phone there fairly easy. Okay. If everybody's ready, we will get started. So, which of the following province or territories is Thanksgiving Monday not a statutory holiday? Saskatchewan, Nunavut, Quebec, Nova Scotia. You got about 15 seconds to get an answer in there. I sadly don't have the Jeopardy theme song there to.
Start singing. Do, do.
Yes. All right, so there's a breakdown. Half the group thought it was Nunavut, another third Quebec.
So that's sad.
Sorry?
I said it's sad to see that people think that we don't have that holiday in Quebec.
Yeah, that is, yes, because you do have that holiday in Quebec.
Yes,
In
we
fact,
do. We
the
do.
correct answer is Nova Scotia. So it's not actually a statutory holiday there. I know. I was shocked too. All right, everybody ready? So we got most people answered, but you still got a lot of opportunity there. So question 2, before playing Shang-Chi in the 2021 Marvel movie, actor Simu Liu starred in which Canadian sitcom? Corner Gas, Schitt's Creek, Kim's Convenience, or Letterkenny? 15 seconds.
Do, 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 do.
Thank you, Susan.
I'm playing this for the second time, and I'm being fair, and I'm answering what I answered the first time. So I know the right answers, but I'm going to answer the bad questions that I did already.
All right, looks like the majority here may be correct. It is in fact Kim's Convenience. So good on the 92% of people that answered that one. All right, next question. Canada's national animal is, of course, the beaver. A group of beavers is known as a what? A band, a colony, a parliament, or a smack?
Do 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 do. This is a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Each of these is actually a name used for a group of particular animals. But it looks like most people got the correct answer, which is a colony. It's a band of gorilla, a parliament of owls, and a smack of jellyfish are the other groups there. So just
how can jellyfish smack? Or jellyfish.
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, a group of jellyfish is known as a smack of jellyfish. But I mean, everybody I'm sure knows that group of crows is known as a murder. So there's all sorts of weird group names there. All righty. Next question. Niagara Falls is divided by the US-Canadian border. Approximately what percentage of the total volume of water flows over the Canadian Falls? 30%, 50%, 75%, or 90%?
So you took out all the bonus questions, naming them.
Yes. So there's the Bridal Falls, or the Vale Falls are in Canada there.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. All right. And if you bet big, you'll find you're correct. It's actually 90% of the water that flows over Niagara Falls or in the big Horseshoe Falls are in Canada. There's just a mere 10% flows over on the US side of the border. All right, next one. How many provincial capitals are located on islands? 1, 2, 3, or 4? Hopefully this is a little easier there.
I don't know about this one because last time I had trouble identifying some provinces that actually had islands or are islands or
All right,
Wow.
and looks like the majority got the correct answer there. It is in fact 3. They are, of course, Victoria in British Columbia, Charlottetown on Prince Edward Island, and St. John's in Newfoundland. So, all right, halfway through. In what year was the loonie introduced as a replacement for the Canadian $1 bill? 1982, 1987, 1991, or 1996?
Not to be confused with when the toonie came out, which will be in the next quiz, right, Brendan?
Yes, yes. All right, and here it looks like most people have gotten the correct answer, which is 1987. All right, 6 down, 6 to go. In which province was country music star Shania Twain born? Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, or Ontario?
Don't you sing Shania Twain now?
That's what I was
And
asking. Anyone's gonna sing?
Man, I feel
Yeah.
like a woman.
Some country music?
Yeah.
That she is country.
And
Oh.
yes, she is actually from Ontario. For a country music star, you would have thought she would have been born in one of the prairie provinces, but just one over there. All right, question 8. Which of the following beer brands is not Canadian? Moosehead, Red Stripe, Kokanee, or Alexander Keith's?
I don't know. Have you tasted all these, Brendan?
I've tried a fair number of them, but there's probably 1 or 2 that I haven't.
Which one is the best?
Moosehead. I think.
I mean, I'm sure there's some obscure craft beer there, but that you can find there. I'm surprised to think that yeah, no, some people answered Kokanee. That's well known out this way. But the correct answer is Red Stripe. Red Stripe is actually Jamaican.
Weird.
So, yeah, good on those that got the correct answer there. Number 9. Which of the following golfers is from Canada? Tiger Woods, John Daly, Mike Weir, or David Duval?
The fact that I only can recognize 2 of these people as actually golfers is impressive. This is very obscure. I'm surprised you didn't put Arnie Palmer in there.
Oh. And yes, it is indeed Mike Weir. Good on it. Those that answered that. Which of the following Thanksgiving foods is not native to Canada? Cranberries, turkeys, apples, or pumpkins?
So I got this wrong before.
Yeah, it's
I
a
still
tough
put in
one.
my wrong answer in because I'm trying to play fair. I didn't get it right the first time. Trying to think of what our ancestors ate at Thanksgiving. Hard to imagine.
All right, most people, or the majority, seems to go with cranberries, but it's in fact apples. Apples were brought over from Europe. Everything else, cranberries, turkeys, and pumpkins, are all native to North America. So, 2 more questions to go. We've got a bit of an Atlassian theme for these last 2. So, according to the Atlassian Partner Directory, how many Atlassian partners have offices here in Canada? So,
All of you
I Googled
partners
this.
on here, you better know this answer.
Yeah, I Googled this as of yesterday morning. So if something has changed since then, my apologies, but this should be reasonably accurate. and split between 10 and 20 fairly frequently. It is in fact 20. There's a, if you go to the Atlassian partner directory and type in Canada, it came back with about 20 different organizations, you know, whether those are virtual offices or in present office. I mean, that's up for debate these days as to what constitutes an office, but they're spread across British Columbia, Winnipeg, Toronto, Montreal, all the usual haunts. So, and lastly, and you should, if you're paying attention at the beginning, you should know the answer to this question: how many Atlassian community events groups are there in Canada currently doing events? 1, 3, 6, or 11?
That's why we don't have any Nova Scotia community event, because they don't have Thanksgiving off.
I guess.
That's right. That's right. Exactly why we don't have any Nova Scotia. They couldn't
Yes.
participate.
All right. It looks like most of you were paying attention, because at the start of the call there, we listed off all 6 Atlassian community events, the groups that were participating in this event. So that is Vancouver, Manitoba, Kitchener, Waterloo, Toronto, Montreal, and Quebec City. And if, as we said, if you are currently living in a area not represented directly by any of those groups, as we're coming out of the pandemic, I know Vancouver just had an in-person event, you know, a couple of weeks ago. We're going to get back to that sort of thing. So if you live in an area that isn't covered, I'm sure then, you know, reach out and look into starting up a group for like-minded individuals in your area. I highly recommend that. So with 12 for 12 questions, we've got our clear winner here. Max Kuhn got which one did you get wrong?
Almost a perfect score.
Yeah, no, it did very well there. So
the
Atlassian one.
Mm.
Yes, no, that's a good guess, but do that. So in order to claim your prize, I think what we're going to do, we'll list off the top 10 individuals. I'd ask that you email myself, brendan.byers@Atlassian community events.com.
I'm going to show that slide for the winners.
Yes.
If you just want to run through top 10.
Okay.
If anybody's in there as a DQ, you need to let us know.
Yes.
Oh, and
So-
Mike can just post it in the chat.
Yeah, I've got a full list here. So Max Kuhn, David Cowley, Vanessa Lee, Adam Beck, Jonathan Robson, Asif. Skipping over you, Susan. You did very well, but
Can you show that, or is it not able to show that? Can you show that? The next set of winners?
am I not sharing that?
No, it just shows the top 5. Right now.
Okay, hang on a second. Let me reshare.
Okay.
Okay, yes. So I've got Max Kuhn, David Cowley, Vanessa Lee, Adam Beck, Jonathan Robson. So those are the top 5. Asif, Rob R, Vilius, and apologies if I mispronounce anybody's name. Ariel Yu, Brad Hunter. 1, 2,
That's 10.
5. Yes, that's 10. Sorry, Andy, you're just a bit outside there.
Is anyone in that top 10 that we just listed a partner or a Atlassian or otherwise should disqualify themselves from winning? Speak now. Otherwise, Andy's going to get this prize. Hey, very good, Phil. Yes, very good for a non-Canadian. We're very impressed with you. Very good. Okay,
I think
so
the reason why I got so high was I was just purely guessing. So I was quick, but not necessarily accurate.
Brendan, thanks for putting those questions together.
They're
I sucked at
awesome.
them, but I really enjoyed them.
Yeah, they were great.
No worries.
Yeah, I'm going to just put my screen up in a second here.
Yes.
There. Okay. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Want
Right.
to do the? You can do the final farewells. And a reminder: if you want to get your prize, email us. Email you.
Yes. So if you email me, we will get that sorted out and sent back to you in a few days. I can already see Max and David are already on the ball there. So if I called your name out, just email me there with an email address, and we will send you a $50 gift card, courtesy our wonderful partners who help put this on. So thank you very much for coming. I hope that there was some useful information there, and we look forward to doing something again like this in the future. So thanks to all the it really is a team effort from across the country there. Special thanks to Heather, who couldn't be here for this event, but did a lot of work behind the scenes, getting prepped for this. So
Thank you to all our speakers. Thank you to the people who had to fill in at the last minute. We had some illness, so thank you, Phil, for stepping in. Thank you very much, everyone else, for presenting and staying on the panel. And thank you, Jimmy, for jumping in as well. And everybody did such a great job talking. I really appreciate it.
yeah. All right.
All right.
Have a
good day,
great
everyone.
afternoon, great evening.
Have a
and,
great time, everybody. Thank you
see
so
you again
much.
soon.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Appsgiving.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Everyone.